Welcome back to the channel. Probably, I'd probably say this is your official debut because last time we were kind of, streaming with yourself or through Discord and all that sort of stuff. So it's probably like your official channel debut. Nepenthez,
Yeah,
thanks a lot
yeah.
for joining me, buddy.
No, thanks for having me, man. It's always great to talk to you. We don't talk enough, really. I'll be very interested to pick your brains and get some insight from you. So yeah.
I feel that with so many people. Like honestly, like I try my best to like see Discord. Discord's the worst thing in the world for me. I'm only on Discord if I'm selling stuff, and I'm in some really good like Discord servers, probably same as yourself, with some really knowledgeable people. And whenever I come into them, I'm like, man, I should be in this stuff more often, but I just
Yeah,
never open it.
yeah. No, I feel that. I mean, the Sorare Discord, the main one that we're all in. There's just like clicked on the other day. There's like 300 messages. I'm like, I bet there's some golden information in there, and I've just missed it all. Can't be bothered to read it, and yeah, there you go. But yeah, it's good to be here. And
If you don't mind me asking, first of all, I've seen you on Twitter. You're posting the kind of redevelopments you've done. You've got a beautiful background sitting there behind you now.
yeah, yeah. So yeah, just this used to be my garage. I moved into this house a year ago, and I've been working out of a living room for the last like 9 months. So I've been like tucked away in a tiny little corner. And they're still not perfect. We've still got a few bits and bobs to do, but yeah, I'm finally in somewhere that is nice and comfortable. It's spacious. It's got natural light if I choose, and not if I don't. And eventually, right behind me there, I'm going to have a couple of lazy boys. TV on the wall. Let me zoom out so you can see the TV there on the wall. And I'm going to get cameras in the top. And then people like yourself and Big John and Channy and stuff going to invite you down, and we're going to do some Sorare stuff together for sure.
Oh, that sounds quality, man.
Yeah.
That looks like I need to get some lazy boys. I've got some like little gaming chairs in here that I stole from the kids. Like, like my mum bought my kids these two gaming chairs for Christmas, right? And my kids at the time are 2 to 3 and 4 to 5, kind of range.
Yeah.
And these chairs are like big enough for me. And like my house isn't tiny, but it's certainly not like a mansion. So these two chairs go in the living room and they just take up like all the floor
Yeah.
in front of the TV. So I was like, oh, kids, going to need to take them down to Daddy's studio. I'm sorry. So I can feel it, man. I'm really looking forward to it. It's a quality looking place. I like all the pads and all the lighting and everything.
Yeah, thank you very much.
Very eye catching. Must have been some project to get into.
Yeah, sure it was tough. It was tough. It's literally, we started it last May. So it's taken about 14 months from start to finish. And yeah. And it's not, it doesn't look like it should take 14 months, but there was like hiccups along the way, planning permission, all sorts of things. Yeah, just a nightmare. Yeah.
Well, last time we spoke, I was on my way to Spain to do the trip with John, and you'd been on the platform for a couple of months or so, and I think we had a great chat going through. Like I was kind of living vicariously a little bit through you from when like I was new and trying to get onto that like rare pro kind of situation and put myself kind of back down the annals of time, I feel like.
Yeah.
And when you came on today, the first thing I said to you was like, your gallery value is like the same as mine now, like
yeah.
So much has happened.
Maybe I've just put too much money into it. I don't know.
There's so much has happened. I've been following the content on your channel. You've had some really good wins as well with and again, part of the, like when you've been getting success with your gallery, part of the thing that I really enjoy watching is like the Christian Brules plays and the Turkish boy, I forget his name. I want to say it's Aksoy or something like that, or Akse or.
I've got Acha, the centre back.
Acha, yeah, that guy.
And then he, with about 5 games left, he was getting blamed or something. Like him and another centre back had a fallout with the manager, and basically he hasn't played for like 7 game weeks, and now their season's over, and he's going to be released from the club. So yeah, he as a super rare, he was quite nice. And I feel on a whole, I feel like the Turkish league is just disrespectfully undervalued. Like they're always considerably less than any of the other non-major fives, and I don't understand why. There's some absolute bargains in there. I know there's a lot of politics in the Turkish football, and sometimes that plays a part, but you can generally see with the historic trends of players whether or not they're like, a guy that's in all the time or not. But there's actually one of the guys from the Turkish league that is painful for me, and that's Serdar Aziz. I picked him up for about £80. He had one good game, so I sold him for about £90, and he then went on and had 10 consecutive 70 plus point games with a 96 and a 100 and stuff in there. And I'm just, oh god, I just went too soon. I could have waited a little bit longer, tried to get a bit more of a better price, or actually just used him and probably picked up some good rewards from him. But yeah, I really like the Turkish league.
Yeah, I know. I'm in agreement. My problem with the Turkish league is I find it hard to motivate myself to scratch beneath the surface. If you know what I mean, like I'm really
Yeah,
happy to go into Turkey and like, yeah, who finished in Europe and who's the goalkeeper and who's the forward, but like going into the mid table and going, oh, they actually really underperformed and oh, that guy's actually pretty sick. I'm not really motivated to go there with it, and that's
yeah,
I'm probably not alone in that.
yeah. That's absolutely fair enough. There was one of the teams. I've actually been Fenerbahce. They changed manager. They brought in a couple of guys on loan, like massive players, way better than them, and then they just went on some insane run. And there was also Rizespor, who Jedson Fernandez was on loan at. They loaned in a couple of big guys as well that are just way too good for them, which is why Jedson was getting like 100 points a game every game for like 10 weeks or whatever. And now it's like trying to, for me, it was trying to find those new guys like Fakas and Pasa who finished in mid-table. They signed this striker called Muleka on loan, like a 19, 20-year-old, and he just
Cool.
like banging goals constantly. And it was like, yeah, he's just way too good for them. And now they're trying to sign him on a permanent. And it's like, if that news goes through, I might look to pick him up for next season as a super rare because as an under 23 super rare, he could be one of those guys that, okay, he's not going to do what Mbappe and Haaland are going to do, but he's going to be a fraction of the price and get like 90% of the points, which will be cracking. So, yeah, I really like the Turkish league, which I never thought I'd say. Yeah.
And that kind of bang for a buck on like your pounds per points, like that kind of angle, you've done really well with to this point, you know. So
Yeah, and that's what I've tried to go for. But I will say that I've missed out on a few better rewards because I've opted for the cheap option and I've looked at the other guy where I'm like, I just bought him. I should have paid that premium because I would have won the premium instead.
yeah, it's like kind of damned if you do, damned if you don't sometimes. And like,
Yeah,
you are always trying to, I recorded a video earlier today and it's like going through like lineup builders throughout the next bunch of, like if you go into Sorare data today, you can go up to game week 300
yeah, which is awesome,
and
isn't
the,
it?
The European stuff kicks in game week like well, for me it's Scotland, but 292.
Yep.
So, it's one of these things I think we all enjoy, like looking down and going, oh, I could pair him with him and da da da. Oh, that works, and oh, he's cheaper. But then when you're actually like in the battleground and you're like, oh, that
Yeah,
guy I didn't get got 100.
yeah, it's pain. Yeah, yeah. I actually, I was surprised to learn yesterday that the Russian league comes back in 3 weeks. Yeah, the
Yeah,
15th of July, the Russian league, and another one, Christian Brawls, actually. So, what's he, Belgian league or whatever
yep.
it is? Or, yeah, they're back as well. So that's amazing. But yeah, I actually spent a fair bit of time. You can actually see on my gallery rather than Sorare data on Sorare, I've got my lineups aired for when the European leagues come back, and I've got some very, very, very nice lineups. I'm super happy with, and so I'm just super
Oh
excited
yeah,
for it all to come back. So yeah, if you want to have a little look at those, there's some that are a bit I'm not sure here and there. Like Muric is looking to go to Burnley. They sold Pope now. If Muric goes to Burnley, I'm absolutely delighted with that. But Hassal might not get his place back in the Whitecaps team because their backup goalkeeper during his injuries has been
doing
performing
good.
really, really well. So there's a few bits and pieces here and there. Like if Stefan Ortega goes to City as their backup goalkeeper, he's just thrown away. I need to go and buy a new goalkeeper, But overall, yeah, they're my lineups, and I'm really, really, really looking forward to the new season.
Yeah, I think Ortega Moreno. I think that's confirmed. That was the only thing that jumped out to me when I seen this. I was like, I think that's pretty much confirmed at this point, which is a real shame because he did really well in like an average team, as you will know,
Yeah,
obviously if you've picked him up. And City have ID'd him again. Anyone who's at home not aware of Stefan Ortega, like he's a good guy in that. But he knocked back being the Bayern number two.
yeah,
Like that, he had that on the table like in February. He's like, no, I'm not
yeah.
doing it. I'm not going to Bayern. I don't want to be a number two. So I find it pain in
It's
the
a bit,
ass that he's done it for
yeah,
City.
yeah. It is a bit weird. I just hope that Stefan can't find a club because then they won't give the green light to him if they don't find the club. But in general, my championship rare is like probably my weakest setup. But yeah, there's some good players in there. There's some good options. I've got a few players that I bought not on a whim, but with real good hopes, like Wilson Isidore, who's going to be staying in Russia now. He went from the French league. He was banging goals until the back end of the season where they started rotating, and now he's going to be there for the next like 4 years. And it's like, okay, he's another one of those guys that he is just way too good for the Russian league. I'm
Yeah,
really expecting him to be picking up monster points every single week.
that's it. And with the Russian, like you'll definitely have a nice kind of early advantage on the season with some of these guys that you're rolling out. You say Russia and Belgium are the two ones to come back first. I don't think Austria and Switzerland are too far behind. And then
Yeah,
like Scotland, I know is game week 292, but then like Champion Europe is like game week 296 or so.
yeah,
Like Spain and La Liga and whatever. But basically, in that, we've got what, like maybe 10 game weeks between then.
it's
So
gone real quick, hasn't it?
having the Russian keepers that are playing and all that good stuff, I think you'll have a pretty fun July, to be honest.
I hope so. Yeah, I need to. Not that I want to get out. It's always weird whenever I talk about like trying to not even minimize risk because with Sorare, I've always used it as like, look, if it crashed and burned tomorrow, I'd be content. I know that's a risk, but it would be nice just to withdraw some money and almost like just start playing with house money. Just so that it's like not a road to glory, so to speak, but just to show people like, okay, I put a big investment in. This was my strategy. I've recouped that investment, and this is what I'm left with to push on. Because I'm maybe maybe a little bit naively optimistic that I can develop a 6-7 figure gallery without investing any more money and just using time that I've got on the smarts that I think I've got to win
Yeah, yeah.
rewards and get those big ones. Like I would be upset if I'm being perfectly honest if next season I don't hit at least one first place in under 23 or under 23 rare pro, and that's when I think I'm going to make that like monster, like maybe like a super rare Holland that just sells like 100 grand or something. That's kind of like that's what I'm looking for basically.
Yeah, no, I can dig it, man. I'm just looking at
Yeah,
the under 20. I think if you get the Muric transfer, which I'm kind of hoping for as well, by the way, then your 23 Pro is pretty solid. Enzo Fernandez confirmed in River Plate for the rest of the calendar.
yeah, which is brilliant.
Yeah, and then
Um,
Gabriel, Pablo, and Brandon. That's a
Well, I've
solid
actually got
team.
Saliba as well instead of Gabriel.
Oh,
It depends if Saliba goes Marseille permanently or if he comes back to Arsenal and how he plays when he comes back. I've also got a couple of other good, really good under 23 defensive
Jesper Carlson.
options. Yeah, well, yeah, Carlson as a rare, and then I've got Austin Trusty as a super rare. But I don't know. He's in the MLS for another month, and then he goes back to Arsenal. And I would assume Arsenal are going to loan him out again for next season. So if he goes to a team that's dominant, where he's actually able to be a force there, that'd be cracking. If he goes to a team where they're just bit shit house and he can't do much, then he's going to have to be weighted on a bit. But yeah, Brandon Vasquez, I bought him off the man AFC Pires, Brandon
Hey,
Vasquez, and I got him for a good price, and he's I think 6 decisives in 7 games for him, which has been fantastic.
that is.
And I'm really like Muric is like, I think he's going to be the big swing. If he goes Burnley, I think his price could go through the roof. He will be the dominant under 23s goalkeeper next season.
Big time. I had to pick a limited up. I didn't have the wallet to get a rare. And the thing with Muric is like we were kind of talking about this earlier, talking about like selling players and that kind of thing. A big thing I think everyone struggles with is that timing of when to get somebody. Is the price low enough? Will it go a wee bit lower? And equally
Yeah,
selling on the other end. And Muric is one of these guys that had about 3 opportunities to get last season. What in retrospect would always have been like really good prices, and I was always like, oh, it's still a wee bit too expensive for me. And
yeah,
I remember he lost the job last year for about a month. At what was the Turkish team Adama or whatever? He was
yeah,
in number one, and he got dropped for about a month, and his price went to something really low. Like even with ETH being a crazy price is what it was, but it was like 0.2, and I was like, I think I could get him for 0.18.
yeah, yeah. That little haggle. Yeah,
And it never happened.
right. Yeah, when I think because he was only on loan there, I think the back end of the season they just put the other keeper in. They couldn't get Champions League football as soon as they couldn't. I think that's when he got like released, and then when he played for Kosovo, got sent off in his first game, didn't he? So I was like, man, he was supposed to be my under 23s goalkeeper throughout the Nations League, and he's done me dirty with a red card. So it wasn't good.
I definitely agree with you. I think he'll be a power player because I don't think we've had. I don't know if Kaminsky was ever U23 when he was in the championship, but we've got that boy Okoye as well at Watford. So there's actually two U23
Yeah,
championship. Okay, but one thing I wanted to ask you actually, because you're an Arsenal fan, so you'll know this better than anyone I could ask really. Arsenal, when they loan players out, my gut would tell me they more often than not loan in England rather than loan into Europe. Would you go along with
um,
that? Think about guys that get sent out on loan and stuff.
no, I don't think so. I
No.
think right now, obviously, we had Saliba at Marseille. We've
Yep.
got Reece Nelson out of Feyenoord.
Yep.
Um, we had, I mean, we've got Austin Trusty out in the MLS.
Sure.
Um, but yeah, when you think about players like who's up front for us now, Nketiah, he went to Leeds, obviously, and
Leeds,
so yeah,
yeah,
we definitely do play like loan a few internally, but what I gather is the players that we think have a future at Arsenal go to the best option, not to an English option, and then the players that we kind of want to get game time to sell on go to an English club just to get some exposure.
sure. Okay. So I listened to an Arsenal channel. I don't know if you know this guy. His name's Deluded Gunner, and I
No,
just kind of he's got like he's a good guy and that does streams and all that, but he's like proper South London or North London, whatever it is, and he goes to all the youth games and all the rest of it, and he pure knows all the academy guys and whatever. He's
it's
like,
intense.
yeah, he's like right into it, And I remember about a year or two ago, he was mad for a Polish guy called Bielik or something like
Yeah,
that. And he went on loan to Derby, I think, or
yeah.
So I was just thinking about that when you mentioned Trusty. I was like, where do they put their kids that they fancy? But if you think it's into Europe, then
I,
that's me.
I think I think the kids that they think are going to be great just go to the best option. That might sometimes might be England, but just whoever the best option is.
Yeah, because Reece Nelson before went to Hoffenheim and Smith Rowe went to Leipzig for a bit.
Yeah, exactly.
Smith
Yeah.
Rowe went somewhere else as well. I think Prem, but wasn't it? It wasn't Championship. I may be losing my mind, but
Oh, he did. I think it was. I think it was. Championship might have even been lower than that. Yeah, Huddersfield,
oh, really was it?
2020. Yeah, did well there as well. 19 games he played. Fair enough.
Well, it sounds like OBSO5 scored regardless then.
Yeah,
Which is good. With me coming up to this season, I'm quite similar to yourself that like I would be very disappointed not to get some podiums this year. Like I've hit 4 or 5 podiums, I've won 2 divisions, but I didn't do any of that in the 21-22 season.
okay.
And I feel like a big part of it, or was it? No, I think it was actually quite let me think. No, it was. But it was at the back end. It was at the beginning of the season, the back end of the calendar. No, or was it? I'm losing my mind now. But it wasn't in a long while anyway. And I feel like for the longest time, I've been moving my gallery around, like making sure that if something happened in the future, I could capitalize upon it, or making sure that if a new league comes on, or they do something with super rares, or blah blah blah, whatever, I'd be prepared for it. And this is the first time where I feel like I'm away from that now finally, and I can get into like actually targeting. Like I know I'm going to keep these guys. I'm not going to be selling them in 2 months when the
Yeah,
appetite's there to sell them into the market, for example, or when the loan or the transfer kicks in.
yeah,
Um,
yeah, and that's a great place to be. I feel like I'm a little step behind that. Like I've got so many players in my gallery right now where I'm waiting for a transfer and I'm waiting for the new season. Like I've got Arturo Vidal and I've got like a Slimani super rare. It's like he was doing great at Sporting and then he
yeah,
fell out with the manager, and so now I'm just kind of waiting. Like I'm like, okay, he's going to be great if the right move comes about. So yeah, it's not a nice place to be having a good like 20-30% of your gallery in like
question marks.
limbo. Yeah, just waiting for something. But your galleries like because when I came on board to So Rare, like you and John were the first 2 people that just kind of like reached out, said hello, and like welcomed me into the community, opposed to some others who didn't. But you 2 guys were just like so nice. I've always like followed you and John throughout your So Rare journey since then. And as much as I want you to succeed, I would love it if you like as long as you're happy with what you're doing. Whenever you have a game week where I outperform you, I'm like, come on, man, like because like you're the main guy. Do you know what I mean? I'm like, look, you've got 180 rewards, 2 podiums in there. You got a mad gallery. Like you started from the bottom. Like you started
Yeah,
with like you said, like next to nothing, and this is what you've got. And I'm like, yeah, you know your stuff. So when I outperform you, I'm like, yeah, okay, I'm going in the right direction, because if he's not winning and I am, that's where it looks good. And yeah, no, I definitely do use what when we last spoke, you talked about buying players not even for the 6 month future, but for the long term future. I don't know if that's still like your
yeah,
potential or anything, but there's a lot of things that you do where I infer my own strategies from it. Where I'm like, okay, I don't necessarily want to buy for 2 or 3 years in the future, but buying players I think could be about to have a good run of form or anything for any particular reason, and then I end up getting quite lucky a few times and selling them on for some nice profits, which is ideal, really.
yeah. No, and again, I'm just looking at a gallery towards that kind of time. But again, like guys like Pablo Ruiz are that kind of archetype of, picking him up in February doesn't do you any favors, but in June and July, he's a hero. You know,
Yeah,
And again, like too many, and again, when I made that video I referenced earlier, like, I do talk like I think everyone, and it's part of building a gallery is like you can literally do as many trades as you want within 24 hours of the day and like, grow your gallery that way in terms of flipping and whatever. But a lot of the real growth that people really enjoy and really does move your gallery up levels is through winning. And if you watch Harry Trade's channel now, like he's hit a couple of podiums on the bounce and he's getting some real momentum.
Yeah,
And
but go on, you finish. Come back
all
to Harry Trade.
I was going to say is that's the only part of this game you can't accelerate. You can't make time go faster. You can't make football happen tomorrow.
Yeah, and
You have
that's the
you have to
pain in
ride.
it because
Oh,
it's like I'm sitting there looking at my teams. Even this weekend, I'm like, all right, it's a new game week. I've got 3 really strong lineups this game week, but my first game isn't until 12:30 tonight. And I'm like, even now, I'm like, have I not got a game this morning? Like, what's going on here? Like, I need something now. I'm looking at the other game weeks. I'm like, right, who's got what? Can I go and buy one of those guys so that I've got an early morning game? Like, um, but with regards to what Harry Trades did, he finished first in Super Rare, under 23 Super Rare, and he got a guy who wasn't even as valuable as a guy who finished like 7th in under 23 Rare. And it's like
yeah.
that for me, it like not only does it create like a real distaste towards D1 and D2, it also makes it harder for people in D1 and D2 to sell their cards because unless you've got the premium cards, can't compete with those cards. And I think there's a big issue, at least for me anyway, with regards to So Rare on that whole. I've got super rare lineups now, sorry, rare pro lineups now for the new season. I have no incentive to purchase anymore. I'm now at that point where it's like everything I win, if it's better than what I've got, it will go into the lineup and I'll sell on what I had. And if it's not better than what I've got, I'll sell it and withdraw the funds. And it's like once everybody gets there, and I know they still onboarding new people, and everybody's not necessarily going to get there because you might have a player transferred or injured or banned for a year for failing a drugs test or something. But for the most part, once people get to that like 90% critical mass, what happens from there? Does the site just implode? Like I wonder if they've considered that or if they've got like a timeline for when that sort of stuff starts happening. But it's a bit of a concern that it's already happening, in my opinion, at D1 and D2 level, where
I
people are
would,
just paying for rewards to sell.
yeah. No, I would agree with that in terms of cause when I sold on a bunch of cards recently, like a lot of them were super rares, and that was the kind of issue I found is like if it's not a D3 caliber super rare, which is maybe one of a few molds, then there's not really a market for the card, and
Yeah.
that becomes difficult. So I may actually make you quite spot on, and it's not really. That's not really a thought experiment I've taken myself down, but it's a really interesting one for sure because I think like things like that will happen at D1 and D2 level quicker, which is good for us because we can kind of see it coming down the road, if you like, because there is less there, less people, less cards, less teams, so things boil down to the minerals, if you like, a bit quicker at that level.
Yeah.
Whereas at rare and limited, it will take much longer for those things to boil in, as you say, that critical mass factor. I think the kind of different game modes, I think primarily, like if I put myself back to day one and I even thinking about you close to day one, like because no matter how much money you have, no one comes in day one, balls on the table with, maximum budget. Everyone does start off with the, try before you buy. I'll buy a wee team and I'll do this, or I'll play with the commons. And I think because everyone will be at continuously different stages of doing that, and like that accelerated growth that I've experienced and that other people have experienced in different degrees, depending on when they've joined, won't all like it as we're seeing now. There will be opportunities where it might happen again, but that's not guaranteed or predictable. If you get those other
Yeah.
entries to like get ETH cheap the now and then in a month's time, so even if ETH a month, like as we are recording the now, ETH in pounds is between £800 and £900.
Yeah.
If even in 4 weeks from now, which isn't really that difficult to imagine, ETH was consistently around 12 to 1300, that's like a 33% uplift in ETH, and
Yeah.
that offers some acceleration, which is what I'm talking about. So because that acceleration isn't constant and isn't always guaranteed, it's taken me 2 years to get what I'm getting to with like basically a startup fund of probably about £1,000 or so. For someone else to do that same road from 1,000 to where I'm at now will probably take 3 or 4 years rather
Yeah.
than the 2 years it's taken me. Because I've had lots of propellants that have thrown me forward 6 months, if you like, because of
Yeah.
whatever.
Yeah. That does make perfect sense. And like in any sense, not everyone, like I think I watched one of the So Rare podcasts and I love the title of it. Like we can't all win all the time. Like
Yeah.
there's going to have to be losers because there's winners, which is nice. But one concern I have, and feel free to, I'd love your opinion on this because Channy disagrees very
Ooh.
strongly with me on this, and that's that I think the onboarding of new leagues, but no change in the SO5 structure, makes players that consistently even get 50, 60, or even 70 points not irrelevant, but considerably less valuable because when you have teams like Celtic or like Zagreb getting onboarded, all of a sudden you've now got 3 or 4 more 80 to 100 point scorers that we didn't have before. So when all of the Wales that can and the powers that be go and get those guys, and then everyone's putting out fives at the top level, taking all of the stars, all of the podiums, and all of the tier ones because they're getting 450 points before bonuses every game. It's like, how can anyone else compete? First of all, but second of all, that guy that used to get 60 to 70 points that was really good, like a William Saliba, 60 points a game on average, brilliant. Now you've got other players that are coming in, like Urian Timber. Like I know he was there already, but like with also like
Oh, yeah.
Cameron Carter Vickers, 80, 90 points a game. Now all of a sudden Saliba's price just tanks because he's just not competitive anymore. I think that's a massive issue. Canny likes the fact that there's more star players out there, but I think when there's more star players, there's no star players.
Yeah, no, I've definitely suffered that added variety option because, like, again, when I take myself back to maybe my first 6 months or so, like, guys that would get you between, let's say, 50 and 55, there's maybe 50 of them on the platform, and now there's like 500, you know.
Yeah.
So, like, that's exactly what you're saying. Like, the value of them isn't, oh, that guy being 55 and he's consistent, he plays 40 games. Well, there's 50 other guys, so you're going to get the cheapest one or the one that fits your gallery already,
Yeah.
and they lose a bit of something. I think, like, I've kind of said this before, that I think the version of the game that we're playing now, in a lot of respects, is like the hardest. Where it is like you can play a full Ajax team; they can be all 60 plus averages and whatever. And I think we've seen already with the first iterations we've had of like specialist, underdog, and freakly. I think eventually, if you extrapolate this out over another couple of years or whatever, eventually, like, there probably will be like a full SO5 arena, and it is like the specialist rules, D4 to 1, all the divisions, all the regions, if you like. And it's like
Yeah.
you will only have a 160 plus average star and all that. And then maybe the
Yeah.
price pools are different, maybe they're not as good. And then you've got the mode we're in now will be like the hardcore mode, and maybe all the rewards are a bit better because it is like, you're punching without gloves,
Yeah.
kind of style. So I think that might be what combats that in the future, maybe
Yeah.
something like
Yeah.
that.
Because I also like think they tweeted out some months ago now when the Premier League license for the digital art, whatever it was, went to someone else.
Yep.
They tweeted out, like Julius tweeted, they anticipate having all 20 top leagues by the end of 2022. And that's exciting in some regards because it's like, if your player goes to, like, I don't know, the Greek league, and then all of a sudden they onboard it and they start scoring it, you're going to be delighted with that. But
Big time.
it is also a worry because, for example, the Greek league, they've got two outstanding teams and then a whole bunch of nobodies. And
Yeah.
it's, for me, it's like, unless they, like, I think even in the immediate term, I think they would do well to just introduce more permanent SO5s. Instead of Champion Europe, have a Premier League SO5, have a French League SO5. Like, how the reward structure from that again creates a bit of an issue, doesn't it? Because you're then diluting a reward pool. It gets
Yeah.
even more tricky. But yes, they're in a bit of a spot. I don't know. I'm sure they've got their plans and they're going to execute them at their times. But yeah, for me, it's a concern with, and that's why I talked about before about trying to play with house money, so to speak. I'd like
Yeah.
to get there because it's such uncertain grounds, isn't it?
And that, in that respect, in terms of where the ceiling goes, I definitely agree, because like the card prices now have changed so much that I think, like, I think a lot of people have kind of sobered up to the fact that, myself included, probably to some extent, that ETH doesn't go up every day. Like, I've
Yeah,
seen it go backwards as well, if that makes sense. And you do, like, I've got lots of examples I've had in my life of like spending money on stuff that is, to everyone else in the world, worthless tat, but it makes me super happy. And so I'm kind of well in that zone of being like, I'm an active consumer. Like, if I see an advert I like, I will say, I really like that advert. I'm probably going to now buy that. Or if I was going to, I will let myself be marketed to. I'm more than
Yeah,
happy to be a biter, like
yeah,
if there's a deal
yeah.
on, I'll take it. Like, that sounds cool to me. Um, but yeah, you do need to kind of sober up to it in that sense as well, because sometimes, like, I've seen myself pre-order, and again, this is a small tangent, right? But I pre-ordered last year when everything was kind of booming and stuff like that. I had to cancel it, but I pre-ordered a 800, 900 pound Optimus Prime, and it voice control will transform and like drive about the room and all that, and like it's legit a real like transformer almost.
Wow, yeah, that's pretty awesome.
But like, if I bought that, that is £900 gone. Like, really,
Yeah,
like, you could maybe sell it to
yeah,
somebody for a couple of hundred later on after the fact or whatever. But like, I think a lot of people, rightly or wrongly, different influences and different wording that goes around the whole platform, come into it thinking there's a vehicle to be had of, oh, I've got 1,000 and then some, and that kind of, that was one of the things I really enjoyed about getting to know you and Chani and doing content with you guys, is like the main onboarding angle from you guys wasn't ROI based. It was engagement and fun. It's like, oh, these, like, just to keep it dead simple, these other FIFA cards, I actually own them and they will be here next year.
yeah,
So it was almost like what you were doing anyway, but just a different category.
yeah.
And it was
Uh,
just like, oh, this is another football game I can play and another part of fun. And
and that's exactly what it is for me, and that's why on outside of the kind of, I guess, financial implications, so rare. What it has done for me and why it is worth every penny I put in is I've reconnected with football like I haven't had since I used to play Football Manager every day when I was like a teenager. I'm now supporting teams and players for no good reason other than I hope they score. But I'm celebrating passes and tackles, like, and who does that? Like, I'm like, oh, wait, was that a double double? Yeah, like, and all of a sudden, like, it's like that value that you get is priceless. It like a lot of the guys are in my streams all the time, like they're fully, oh, and did you see, like, just insert a random player scored a hat trick today? I'm like, no, I didn't see that, because I don't, like, who cares about that? He does really loads, because it's really important to him that this guy did well. So yeah, I think on that, on that whole, like, spending on something because it's just genuinely fun, I think So Rare's there for me. I think I have lots of fun, and when you try and relate it to as something as a consumer, and this is where I think the NFT world will get to eventually. People will understand that, okay, just because it's digital instead of physical, like, you could buy something physical and then store it in a cupboard, it may as well not exist. What I
yeah,
mean? Like, it's the same. You buy something digital, you get some enjoyment out of it, and then if it just disappears, who cares? You got your value, you got your fun out of it. So I definitely can see that side of things. I like it a lot.
yeah. So yeah, that's kind of for me where I think, like, I think you guys brought a kind of almost a tipping of the scales in terms of that balance, taking away a bit of the ROI focus. And I think the stuff we're talking about now in this kind of ETH bear market we're in, again, is probably put that onto people's desk and went, why are you playing this? Like,
Yeah,
what is the full what is the pie chart of reasons? And how is it
yeah,
divided up exactly? And that's why you've actually kind of brought that into my mind, which I'm very thankful for, because I've been talking on content and stuff as well and saying, like, I feel like the market is a little bit fearful because of this stuff, and that kind of thing we've just spoke about, I think, is probably the best way of kind of encapsulating it. That's
yeah, yeah, and it is a strange market. Like, what I find, like, the weirdest, like, when I look back over my players over the last sort of like 6 months, other than the top dot Lewandowski, who I'm just never going to recover money on. Like, he's going to have to earn his money for me via SO5 points. But I look at all my players, whether it's Saliba, whether it's Muric, Pablo Ruiz, and I could get 2, 3, 4x on them. And I look back and I think, oh, imagine if I sold Saliba here and then bought him back 3 months later, fraction of the price. Imagine if I did that with all the players. And the potential to make money from trading and short-term holds and selling them on, I think, is far greater than the potential to hit that, you know, super rare Mbappe and make money through SO5 gameplay. I think it's obvious that you can make more money trading and investing than you can from playing SO5. Yeah, and it's one of those things that lets me know why I play So Rare, is because I could not give two tosses about trading, even though I could make so much more money. And the same with investing. I could sell my play, like Pablo Ruiz right now. I could sell almost 3 times what I bought him, and that's massive.
yeah,
But I want to use him. Like, if I sell him, who am I going to buy that's going to get me as many points as he is? I'd have to go and buy him back
Yeah.
and just pay a bit more on top to get him back off the guy that I just sold him to. And it's like, yeah, like for me, I love the fact that the option to trade is there, because maybe when FIFA slows down for me, or maybe I don't know, I just take a hit in finances somewhere else, where I'm like, okay, I need to make some money now. Let me put my mind to trading. That's an option. Yeah, the least best return is the one that entices me into Sorare the most. And I think that's why when I came on board to Sorare, a lot of people questioned the motives. And I think it's clear to see. I think you'd have to really go out of your way to argue otherwise. I think it's clear to see that I love SO5. I love Sorare for the game that it is. And I think yourself included, I think John included, Channy 100%. Like, there's a lot of the guys that I talk to on a regular basis that are content creators really enjoy the game of SO5 rather than making the money or trading or anything like that. Like, it just feels good, doesn't it, to win a reward? Even if it's some like tier 3, you're like, at least I got a reward.
Especially if you recognise them. Oh, I know that
Yeah. Yeah.
guy. And I've actually had a few times watching your videos, being like that. I was actually looking at this guy earlier today.
Yeah.
What are the odds of that? And
Yeah.
so those wee buzzes are good, for sure. And like for me, like I'm hoping to like the way things have kind of went now. So when I sold a bunch of cards, a few cards I managed to keep in the club that I kind of thought, oh, I can still do a profitable trade for this kind of junction I was at. But I don't. Anyway, so I managed to keep Barco in my club, right? For the same kind of thing you were saying there with Ruiz. U23 mid, if I sell him, like who do I replace him with? Like U23 mids that are non-EU are hard to come by and bloody dear if they're not, and those kind of little. So I was trying to sell him when ETH was closer to 2,000 and 1,000, let's say. And I was valuing him around 3.5 ETH. That's reckoned where a U23 mid, blah, 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 whatever. Can't remember all the criteria, but I remember 3.5 ETH was in my head as target price. And then I look at today, so ETH's much closer to 1,002. It's halved in price.
Yeah.
I would still sell Barco for 3.5 ETH. Like, so there's a weird kind of, and again, this is only coming to my mind from us talking. It doesn't really link into anything specifically. I'm sorry, but like, I would still sell him for 3.5 ETH, which is really weird for it because of like where he's at in the marketplace. Like, fair enough, pounds is really feels like what's driving the majority of the market at the moment.
Yeah,
but it's one of these. But again, I sell him for 3.5 ETH. I'm going into the same marketplace where 3.5 ETH carries what it carries. It's not like
exactly.
You're taking that money and you're then all of a sudden like, oh, I can buy 5 of them, and
yeah. And I was asked this question on stream the other day, like, how has the price of ETH impacted the Sorare market? And it's really interesting to see that for limiteds, almost not at all, because they are very heavily driven via fiat. For rares, a bit more, and for super rares, way more. It's almost like people that play at super rare and unique level value everything in ETH, and people that play in limiteds value nothing in ETH. And it's like, if you're somebody that plays kind of all the divisions, it could be a great time for you if you get it right, or an awful time for you if you start like just making like mistakes with how you're buying and selling players. But yeah, it is interesting. I sold my Mbappe just before Nations League because France had 2 games in the same game week, and I think people overlooked it a lot. So he was only going to get 2 games, and so I was like, let me sell Mbappe. And people are like, oh, you're going to buy him back? I'm like, yeah, I mean, I do want to buy him back, but I think the ETH that I got from him allowed me to like purchase Callens and Johnson Super Rare,
cool.
so it was super valuable for me. And since I've sold him, fiat price is just on a nosedive, and I'm like, what perfect timing! Like, I sold him for £2,600 fiat, and he's sold just recently for £1,900 fiat, and I'm like, yeah, that's perfect sale time. And it's one of those things again where it's like, it just feels so nice to see that graph like that. Like, rather than me holding on to him like, oh, I should have sold him. I knew I should have sold him. But yeah, it's nice to see that graph like that. And because the limiteds aren't changing based on ETH price, when it does come time to pick it back up again, I'm going to be able to get him at a good price again, just because of the way the market works at that level.
Of course. I'm totally with you on that. And I've actually, Again, the stuff we're talking about kind of ties back into, like you were saying there, with the evaluations and whatever, like those super rare cards that don't fit the D3 profile, and how there's almost like not a market for them. It's that same kind of way with like with limiteds, for example, like when that correlation to the pound note valuation becomes more valuable for the short term, like when ETH is crashing, which it has done now. Like I think to myself, if I can pick up these guys at the moment around this kind of price and limited level, and it's almost like a little store up. So like I've went through different stages over the last 2 years of like maybe acquiring over a short period of time 15, 20 cards, and then I know as a result they'll push out 5 cards at the back that I don't need anymore. Maybe 3 or 4 of them get a transfer. That's the idea why I bought them, whatever, yada yada. But whenever these little scales, these little pardon me, whenever these little cycles happen, you need to have some method of capitalizing on it, you know.
Yeah.
And it's not always fun selling these cards, but like if you don't sell something, then when things boom, how did you even get on in it? How did you even capitalize on it? If
Yeah,
you're
and
just if you're just
that's
sitting there
definitely
going, this is great, isn't it? Nothing's
yeah,
changing for you,
yeah,
you're just in the
yeah.
waves.
And that's definitely where I feel like I'm at right now. I've seen like we can never predict what's going to happen, especially if slash when the Premier League gets announced. I think like a massive ruckus in the market. But
Yeah.
European player prices right now are at rock bottom, and it's like you see. I can't remember who it is. One of the guys is just buying everything. Everything. I can't remember his name, but he just buys everything. And it's like, okay, he's just picking up everything because he knows in 2 or 3 months' time, he's going to be able to make 30, 40, 50% on everything and maybe 100, 200, or 300% on lots of it as well. And it's like, yeah, okay, should I be putting, 10 or 12 ETH in just buying some premium, like limited and rare Europeans just so that for the sole purpose of just selling them when the Premier League starts and when the main league start?
I think I think if you're after collateral, I think that's the best collateral. It's high profile limiteds, because like that's the first part. Now everyone comes into the market. It's the part of the market, even myself, most people feel comfortable knocking
Yeah,
about in, pick up 5 cards, sell 3, oh, I need a guy, I need an underdog, just go get one, and
yeah,
um, and again, equally when things do recover or when the off-season cobwebs are shaking, if you like, it's the high-profile Europeans that always feel it. Mbappe is the poster child of it, and we've had other guys in
yeah,
the past like Trent or whatever. But the guys, it's like you said earlier on, it's that name recognition. So like, if there is a massive onboarding sequence, when they go to the market, whose name are they typing in? It's not Lee Kang-won,
yeah,
it's Leon Goretzka or
yeah,
Upamecano or these are the names that will get typed in. Oh, I can afford
yeah,
them, and
yeah. Oh, and that is a mistake that I made a lot, and probably even make now is like when you look at like even selling Mbappe. When selling him, it was like, oh yeah, I'll buy him back when the new season comes. But now he has under 23 utility, which is one thing. I didn't play him in under 23s. I played him in All Star, which I think a lot of people hate, don't they, when you play under 23 players outside of under 23? But
it's blasphemy.
but then when you look at the price of Neymar and Messi, who effectively offer you the same scores, you could buy both of them and have change for the price of Mbappe.
Wow.
Like, that's mad, isn't it?
It is, especially on Messi. Neymar, I can believe it, but to have Messi in there as well, because Messi, like even if you put that whole champion Euro premium lens on, Messi's the first name you type in. If
Yeah,
can I afford Messi?
yeah, yeah.
And it's like, oh, I can, brilliant. He's only X or whatever, and maybe Mbappe, but Messi is like Messi.
Yeah, he's Messi. And what I'm really excited about with Messi, and I will pick up a Messi for this season, and I'll try and get a rare version as well, is that
Ooh.
he obviously is going to go to the MLS.
Yeah,
So when that happens, another season at PSG, maybe two, then off to the MLS. Now we're talking real long term, and the optics of Sorare can change dramatically in that time. But having Messi and Suarez who want to reunite together in the MLS as a duo, that could just be 200 points guaranteed every game week.
that'd be
Like
nuts, man. They want to be reunited. Is that something you've read or picked up on? Yeah,
yeah. That's like obviously they got a really good partnership at Barcelona, didn't they? And
yeah,
a
yeah.
good friendship. So yeah, they've both come out and said that they wanna play in the MLS together, and I think it'll be at Inter Miami, right? Because David Beckham's got he's
Connections.
just got a lot of links, a lot of connections. So it's one of those things where it's like, yeah, if you can get either the limiteds for that, or if you've got the funds to pick up a rare of those two boys, then there could be a lot of fun potential. But again, you never know. Like football changes. Like
Yeah, yeah.
today they want to play together. Next week, some I don't know, like Saudi team offers Suarez 10 million a month to go and play there, and he's like, actually, Messi, you're not
Aye.
that good of a friend, mate. You know what I mean? Like,
I've seen you in a retire, fam.
yeah, yeah,
No, definitely. But I've often thought over the last month or two, when Messi goes to MLS, it will be senior too. Like he will just be like 80 plus every week,
yeah,
without fail.
yeah, yeah.
The games he
Yes,
plays, I think that'll be the problem with Messi in MLS is what pitches will he say I'm not playing on,
yeah,
because you find that
yeah.
again, a lot of people that are new to MLS and new to Sorare maybe not know this or remember it. Sorry if I'm telling you something but like when Henri went to MLS and Drogba and a lot of these guys, even Beckham, like they don't. There's some pitches that you will never see them on,
Oh no, I didn't know that at all. No, that is quite interesting.
because of the
But one of the
surface or
things I
whatever.
did find interesting, one of the guys that watches my streams all the time, he did. I'd love to get his total findings because he never expressed them, and I'm probably because he's making a lot of money off of it. But he went and tracked things like home results versus away results, whether players get better AAs or decisives, and all this kind of data. And for his first early findings, he was like, for strikers specifically, they get way more decisive away from home. And I thought that's just really interesting. Like, and so now when I'm
Interesting.
building my lineups, in Europe, it's like, okay, home game. If I have like a home game Mbappe or an away game Lever, I'm going to take a home game Mbappe every day of the week. Like, obviously, Lever kind of tailed off the back end of the season anyway. But now it's like, okay, I've got an away game, Jesus Ferreira. I'm going to put him in because he's likely to get a decisive based on, I don't know how far back he tracked it or anything. And then, of course, you've got, the climate change in America is so vast and the travel is
Yeah.
so deep that when you play it like that, I think there's one stadium that's so far above sea level that the second half of games typically the opposing team just tails off because they're just not drawing enough oxygen as what they're used to. So they just fatigue way, way more. And I started looking at some of the games of the home team, and it's just as clear as day. Like last 30 minutes of almost every game is when they score most of their goals.
Yep.
And they had a couple of subs that continuously came on and got decisives. And I thought that
Oh,
could be a really interesting pickup for home games
yeah.
only. A super rare of a sub, but guess what? He's probably going to come on and get a decisive in the home games. And I never really looked into it much, but it's so crazy how it's not just about the football all the time, but there's a little bit more at play sometimes.
Some more details, yeah, for sure.
Yeah,
I think the two teams that spring to my mind that might be would either be Salt Lake or Colorado. So I know they both play at altitudes. I don't know which one. That's a great stat in the last 30 minutes of
yeah,
games. And I think
yeah. It is.
there's lots of little tricks. I remember when Austria first came on, there's a team in Austria. I forget which one it is, but say like how many teams is there? 12.
Yeah.
12 of the teams in Austria are here, and then or 11 of them, and one of them is here.
Oh wow.
And this team always does well at home. Kind of thing.
Yeah,
It's a wee tiny
yeah,
village, and it's like everyone supports the team, and then they've got to take a dodgy bus to get there
yeah,
or something. I forget which team it was, but I think it was one of the smaller ones. So little details like that are lots of fun. I love that for sure. And if you can exploit little things like that in data, like it's one of these things that like some people got on to like the Timber game break, if you like, really early because and Vinicius Souza is a good example. So I think Harry spoke about watching him before buying him. But when you know what you need for success, yours might like you're talking about there, the super rare that can if you know that game week, like they're at home to bottom of the league, that have won
yeah,
4 games on the bounce, this guy's fit, then
yeah,
boom, he goes in and that's the difference in the game week. You didn't need the senior Messi. You had
yeah,
super sub, super rare.
yeah, yeah, yeah. Well, there was one guy that I found. I can't remember why I was looking at subs rather than starters. But there's a guy that plays for Ulsan, Yonwon Sang, and he almost never starts. Yet if you look at his chart, it's 70 plus points most every game.
Oh wow.
And I thought, why on earth? Like, what is it with this kid? And it's because of their under 23 rules or under 21 rules, where he's not allowed to start. So he gets subbed on 25 to 30 minutes every single game, and he is just insane. And it's just one of those guys that he's always going to remain cheaper than your premium scorer because he will never show up in the starter section on Sorare data.
Yeah, that's mad. I'm just trying to look at him now. What did you say his name was? Sorry.
So it's EOM and then space one. Yon One Sang.
He's getting 67 minutes from the bench.
Yeah, that's what I mean. Because they're not allowed to start him because of the under 21
Oh
regulations.
wow.
So after 30 minutes, he's allowed to come on, and he does, and then he plays really well. So
Oh, that is a sneaky one, yeah, because he will not come up as a starter. Eh? You're right.
he is listed as a starter there right now, and that might be because he's
Because the scores are so
gained in
credible.
popularity. Yeah, basically, yeah. But
Jesus.
there's a few players that are like that, and it's like, I'm like finding guys like that is what I love. I love to do that. So I bought him and then used him for a bit, and then sold him on and made a good bit of profit on him because his price went up so much.
Yeah, that's class, man. I love guys like that. That's a great little angle. Yeah, man, you got a good run as well. It's not as if they're all few and far between. Like they all,
Yeah,
you do get the odd 25 or something, but yeah, that's cool, man. I love that. That's a midfielder card. Is Rare's pretty tasty though now?
again,
Is Rare's pretty expensive though now?
yeah, it is now. Yeah,
That's a good one.
yeah,
Man.
and I think his price has gone up as well because of the obviously the European leagues finishing. People are just looking elsewhere. But if you look at him back in like February and stuff, he was like £200 for his rare. That's now what you get for his limited. So massive change in him.
No, massive. I like that. So all these wee sneaky angles you can find sometimes. Like I remember, Channy's quite famous for doing it now with the super rare goalkeeper and all that kind of stuff.
Yeah,
But I always remember these little, like I was saying earlier on, where if you know what you need to get a win, kind of thing. I love little game breaker things like that come out. People find like little shortcuts or little nooks and crannies in the market because there is
yeah,
more than one way to skin the cat, and it's kind of ties in with something we were saying earlier in terms of like this the best way to have success on the platform in terms of like growing your gallery and all that is through like wins,
yeah,
and cards like that are a win, even if it doesn't bag you anything. But that's a great insight, great little angle, and then when everyone else clocks onto it, the ROI is huge.
yeah.
It's
The
not just
upside is
like
massive.
it's not
Yeah,
just a goalkeeper transfer, and then it goes from being point two to being point four. It's like a
yeah.
proper like discovery
Oh,
of
yeah.
utility.
So funny you say that. When I bought the Bayern stack because I was an idiot and spent lots of money in February on Bayern players, but like basically top dot everywhere. One of Neuer was still injured, and I didn't know which goalkeeper was going to play, so I bought both Fruchtel and Ulreich.
Yep.
And obviously, Fruchtel has now gone and signed for someone else. I can't remember who it was, and so I got him cheap, but he crashed down even more because he didn't get the game time Ulreich did, or whatever. But then as soon as he transferred, his price went through the roof, and I like tripled my money on him. And I was like, sweet, like I just held on to him for about 6 months for this. But of all those Bayern players that I bought, one of them's actually given me some profit, which was nice.
It's always good when those goalkeepers come out that way as well. Like I used to do it as well when I was unsure about stuff. Like if I'd have an ETH balance and ETH was going up or going down or things were happening or whatever, I would always just think, right, who was the backup goalkeeper I was last excited about getting a move or something? And because sometimes they can be quite a safe play. Like you are just waiting for,
Yeah,
not everyone's going to sit on the bench forever. Eventually, people will move to
yeah,
go and get some minutes.
absolutely. And it would be interesting as well. Like if So Rare ever starts scoring cups, all of a sudden, backup goalkeepers have way more value.
I think it would need to be a separate. I think that would be a lot of fun. But I think what cups. I think you would only really have a reasonable expectation on them covering like the top five European leagues' as main cup, like so
Yeah,
FA Cup, Copa del Rey, whatever.
yeah.
That could be that definitely could be something for sure.
Even if it was like weeklies, do you know what I mean? Like just
Yeah.
all right, we are going to cover this round of the cup this
Aye.
week. Yeah,
Quarterfinals onwards or something when
yeah,
there's all
something like that.
guys
Yeah,
cards involved. It's not like you're playing League One teams and spanking them 10-0.
yeah, yeah. Although I don't know, mate, Arsenal lost to Nottingham Forest, didn't they? So, yeah, it's a bit pain, but
Well, the FA Cup's your bag. You normally win it too often, so you're just giving other
yeah,
people a shot. That's all it is.
yeah. Why not? Well, yeah, the Forest in the Premier League now as well. So it's like, yeah, okay, we lost to an up and coming team. There's not too much wrong with that.
I'm a wee bit excited to see Forest back in the Prem. Like they're one of these kind of historic kind of Goliaths of the English game, and I remember them being in the Prem in like '97 or something for like a year or two. But them along with Leeds, like it feels like the Prem in some respects is like like with all respect to Burnley and Norwich and whatever, but when you've got Leeds and Forest and these type of teams like
Yeah,
filling up the rest
yeah,
of the league, when you look at the
yeah,
table now, it is real like, oh, like
yeah. I mean, even like just trying to predict like the top seven. Forget it. Like, trying to predict the top four. I mean, Liverpool, Man City, always going to at the moment anyway. Always going to say that 1 and 2 spot. But beyond that, it's like, who do you go for? Chelsea, United, Spurs, Arsenal, like, and then you've got teams right below them, and teams like Newcastle who are coming up. You've got teams like West Ham who are very good. Villa are making some good moves in here. Like, there's a lot of quality in the Premier League right now. But yeah, it's nice to see the historic teams that have done so well over the last like 30, 40 years back in there. Because like, when Blackpool, for example, were in the Premier League, it was just a bit of a mess, wasn't it? Bad, wasn't it? It was just like, it was bad. Blackpool were bad, but I do always remember Derby County. What was it? Was it 8 points?
Oh, they were
8 points, yeah. Oh man, they were so bad, weren't they? If you're one of those teams that conceded one of those 8 points, you just feel like trash, don't you?
I think those two examples are definitely make a strong case against not having playoffs, because sometimes, you don't want cannon fodder in the league, like especially the Premier League. You want them all to be fighting fit and fighting shape or whatever. But it's been, I think with Blackpool, like I think that similar to Leicester, it kind of gives people hope. Like, oh, if they could do it, like like maybe some other team in the Championship, those they got promoted.
Look at Man City. I remember Man City when I don't know when they first got taken over, but they went from like the old Division 3, like the Championship, or as it was known then. What was it called? It was called Division 1, wasn't it? Like, yeah. They went there in no time, and then Premier League, like from a nobody team to Premier League in like 8 seasons or something like that, like a crazy ascension. And then their first season in the Premier League, I think they beat Man United 4-2. Sean Wright-Phillips doing absolute wonders for Man City. But yeah, so it's nice to see some teams really like boom up. But yeah, I definitely like the classics. Like, didn't Nottingham Forest win Champions League back in the 70s?
Yeah, back-to-back Champions Leagues, I think.
Yeah, they are. Yeah, it's mad. Like they if any club deserves to be in the Premier League, it's them, isn't it?
I just remember there's this ace Martin O'Neill clip that's from one of the World Cups. In the World Cup, like, they'll get some of the pundits in the studio and they'll talk about the game beforehand or whatever. I can't remember. I think it was the Brazil World Cup, and it's the ITV studio or something, and it's Martin O'Neill, Fabio Cannavaro, and Patrick Vieira, and like somebody says something, and then Martin O'Neill is having to kind of defend himself, and then the kind of looks they're giving him, because Martin O'Neill, he just looks like a wee Irish guy with glasses and all that, and they're kind of looking at him like he's an idiot, and then he turns around and he says something like, that's what he turns around and he says,
Were you strong in a defensive wall, Martin? I can imagine you in the wall with your glasses on, sort of flinching a little bit like Benzema did. Or did you stand strong?
Well, that's very nice of you to say this here. I actually didn't wear glasses when I was
No, I did not.
Okay, so what you're seeing now is an older gentleman, but I did actually play the game at one time. Fabio wasn't terribly sure that I did. I had to remind him that, despite the fact there's 2 World Cup winners here, actually, when it comes to the Champions League, it used to be called the European Cup. I've won 2 of them. I'd just like to know how many you 2 have won. Well, brilliant. And I was braver. And I was braver in the wall than you suggest.
And let's have a look at the.
Absolutely slays him. I've not done it justice at all, but
I'll have to give it a look after this, because that's right up my street. That is like just disrespecting him.
He's like, you don't even know my name, and I was like, I've won 2 European Cups, Patrick. But that's a pure legend team for sure. I think as well, like it's in that kind of vein. Like I'll be probably making a bunch of videos coming up called around like the most valuable cards that you get on the platform. And what I mean by that isn't like the most expensive card like Haaland Unique or whatever, but it is like, I remember like my first season on the platform, like Sporting Lisbon won the league. Sporting Lisbon don't win the league that often. Yeah. And I know you get you obviously get champion cards, and then the next season they've got a little champion icon on their jersey or whatever. But that kind of thing, and it was really big with Lille. Lille won the league last year. They don't ever win the league, I think I think there's little kind of categories of cards that have an extra little kind of asterisks on them in that sense. And maybe if we did get the Prem, like Nottingham Forest, first season back in the Prem, or anything historic that happens this year, because it could be like one of these seasons where, like Ten Hag being at Man United, Arteta's Arsenal's getting up and going, Newcastle with the money, Chelsea, everyone. There could be some good history made this year.
Yeah, it could be as competitive as it ever been really this year, couldn't it? But for me personally, I don't care about have I got 1 of 10, or have I got a numbered card, or have I got like they don't do misprints, but it would be fun if they did, wouldn't it? If they just like misspelled a name on a card or something on purpose just to put it out there. But I don't care. And from my experience, at least with my community on So Rare, they don't care either. And unless So Rare do something different where having that card has some added value in some way or another, I generally don't think people will care about that because it's not physical.
Yeah, I think I would definitely agree with like the mass, if you know what I mean. But like, if you are the Lille fan, you definitely care. Like, if you're the Sporting Lisbon fan, you definitely care, because these things, like for some of the clubs, like Lille, for example, however, they've won the league twice this century or something. And there's a few other teams, whatever. But like that for the fan, the actual fan of that team, that's the best season in the last 10 years, and it's like, it's a really big deal. So I think, and again, that value, it's a funny thing. I actually had a similar conversation recently about, do you know where it was? I don't know if you remember this, but there's somebody won the jersey number Gavi rookie rare.
Okay.
Gavi at Barca, right? And it's the jersey number, I forget what one it was, but someone got that as a reward. And then they just sold it for like 4 price or something. And then it came onto Twitter as a bit of a hoodie, like, you shouldn't have done that. And, you're stupid for thinking it's worth more. It's just a number. That kind of stuff all happened.
Yeah.
I think like 95% of the cases like that is nobody cares about that stuff. I've tried selling that stuff to people, and most people will say, oh, well, if you value it like that, I'm not interested. And that's fair enough. But to ignore the possibility that there will be people out there that could value it that way, I think if you have any of these things, is negligent. I think you should be aware of, like, somebody else might be hard for this. Because I'll give you a really good example for me, right? I've been buying a bunch of Celtic cards recently, and I got a Yokohama Marinos Daisen Maeda, and there's only there's 2 Celtic super rare Maedas. And I paid money just to swap cards with a guy because I want the Celtic one, and that to everyone else is ridiculous. And if you put it on the open market, you won't get a different price from it.
Yeah.
But from me, you will.
Yeah, and that's fair enough. And that's where, like, for me, it would make a difference. And it's crazy to go back into real world for this because of the NFT market. But if having an Arsenal version of a card gave me utility somewhere else, like, it gave me a discount in the Arsenal shop or something like that, now all of a sudden I'm interested in those Arsenal cards because it has extra utility for me elsewhere. But as it is in its current state of SO5 and the way Sorare is, I couldn't give a damn what it says. As long as it scores me points, I'm like, you're in. Yeah.
I'm a bit more sentimental in that way as well. Because again, like when I think about parting with money, like I need to have fun with it, and I don't mind having a Yokohama Maeda, that's not the end of the world. But if someone will take my money and, do a trade with me, then I'm definitely on board for it.
For me, with all the sentimentality comes from, like with FIFA, like you get like first owner cards.
Yeah, me trying to spoke about this as well.
Oh, okay. So for me, one of the things that I want to do eventually, and this is going to take years and years and years, but I want my entire gallery to just be reward. I don't want to have a single player that I've purchased. I want to just have everything that I've won and have them guys winning me more reward. That is like the ultimate goal.
That was my exact goal when I started as well. I thought totally. I was actually saying that to somebody the other week there. I can't remember who it was, but like when I first started, that was like, because you get the little trophy on the card as well. Yeah, so like, I had in my head, like when I sell my gallery, I'll keep my rewards, and then my gallery will just be a trophy cabinet. That's all it's going to be.
But like for me, sometimes I look at people's like SO5 winning lineups, and I'll click on a card. I'll be like, all right, let's see how much he paid for this card. I'm like, oh, he won him. And then I click on the next one. Oh, he won him as well. I'm like, man, this guy's won like first place with rewards. I'm like, I'm so jealous of that. Because like when you click on it and they've like paid massive money for a card, I'm like, yeah, you might want a reward, but like, Like, but yeah, I would love. I do get sentimental to my rewards. I struggle to sell them anyway. Like
Same.
I only sold the second Enzo that I won because it was a new season card and people were just paying a crazy premium for him. And I was just like, look, my other one will catch up on percentage eventually. Let me just sell this one on. And I got a really, really good price for him. But yeah, I think I don't get sentimental really to any. I tell you who I get the most sentimental cards outside of the ones that I've won is the ones that do bad. And it's like Jonathan David, for example. I just can't sell him because I like eventually he's going to come good. I'm just so connected to him now.
Yeah.
Like, he might end up becoming like some French Division 3 football player, and I'm still going to be willing him on and never selling him because he's just too valuable to me now. Like, it's almost like I need to prove other people wrong that no, this was a good purchase. Just wait and see,
Yeah, I totally dig that as well because, like, that it's almost inevitable that form returns
Yeah.
in some shape or form. I suppose is the word for it. But yeah, no, I've been there as well, and it's one of those ones that not everyone can afford to be patient on those ones. I've been in the past, and obviously you'll be able to, I'm sure. But it's you do get connected with that because it is like a decision you've made at some point in time. Like, oh, I'm buying them now because of this, and then when it didn't happen in March like I thought it would, so maybe it'll happen in May, and then the can gets kicked down the road. But this is still on the cards, whatever this is.
Yeah, and so one of the premium examples of me, just one of the worst bits of business I've ever made, is one of your boys, Rio Hatate.
Oh.
And again, it comes down to the quote unquote do your own research, right? And I didn't do my research. I bought him off the back of that Rangers game that he had, where he got, what do you get, like 90 odd points. He had 2 goals and an assist against Rangers.
Yep.
I bought him off the back of that, and I paid so much money for his rare. And I've got the forward card, and for some reason they've given him a defender card now. I paid like £1,500 fiat, 0.7 ETH. I can now get 3 of his super rares for that price. And it's like that for me, like, if I'd done my research, first of all, I would have been able to find a player scoring way better than him for way cheaper. I bought into hype that I didn't even know existed, really. But second of all, if I would have just checked what he did prior to going to Celtic, I would have seen that he's just come off the back of a whole season, and he's obviously going to be tired and need rest, and he's not going to be like his proper self. So it's like a huge error for me. And even though his super rare is there now, he's in my lineups at rare level. And even though his super rare is like £600, I will not buy it because I have to make his rare work,
Yeah, no, I get that for sure. I think Rio Hatate's caused a lot of people some heartache over the positions and whatever. Like, they're actually minting midfielder cards for him now at limited level.
Oh, are they? That's
He's only had 4 Celtic rares, but they've all been defenders, and he's had 2 Celtic supers that have been defenders. But when they did the Champion Edition cards, he started coming out as a midfielder.
Okay,
so
that is interesting.
But I think the forward, it's a really funny one because, like, the forward card doesn't suffer any of the lost possession and goals conceded and whatever. The defender card, I agree. The defender card has the biggest peaks. Like, you'll get 100 out of the defender before you will the forward, and that's because the defender can get +10 for clean sheet. Kind of idea. But the forward won't ever really let you down. It won't ever really get below 45, but it isn't going to break 80,
Yeah.
It's one of those ones. On previous form.
Yeah, but I'm very curious, and I tried to find the information piece, and it was when they did that first video piece, but they are going to be changing the algorithm, the scoring matrix, for the start of the new campaigns. Now, we're getting eerily close to that, and there's been no news on it, and it might be one of those things that another like complete bump in the site where it just changes the value of so many players because they're going to be scored. Like, maybe it will only be minor tweaks, I don't know, but I mean, there's some obvious flaws in the scoring system. But right now, centre backs, they are just the best scorers on the site. Like, they just, unless you're looking at your Mbappes and stuff like that. But if they change one thing that just drops them 10 or 15% points, it could make waves in terms of the prices that people have paid and stuff for defenders. It's quite another one of those uncertain things where it's like, I'm looking forward to that because a few of the players that I've got might come real good. I've got Christensen who just moved to Leeds, and at the moment, fullbacks don't score very well. But if they change the scoring matrix and fullbacks score a bit better, I've all of a sudden got a really good fullback in a really attacking side. So I'm excited for him all of a sudden. But otherwise, if they don't change it well for fullbacks, I'm going to have to try and shift him off for like a Freddo and a packet of crisps or something like that, like.
Well, I don't. First of all, I would say I would expect any changes to be like tweaks. Like lost possession going from 1 point to 0.8, or maybe I think I heard Andrews talking about it, but we know that they can score like passes to the final third and whatever. So there is obviously some sort of geography at play that they can allocate passes.
Yeah.
So maybe they don't get possession, lost a point for final third efforts. I think it might be. I think anything, hopefully, would be minor tweaks rather than any massive upheaval. But it's definitely a change that is hard to kind of set yourself up for. But I do think fullbacks do get. For me, fullbacks are just a real do or die play. It's 25 or 60 plus.
Yeah.
And it depends on your strategy. Like, because even though centre backs score really well, like a really good scoring centre back might bring in 58 like every week or something. Give or take. But they'll never get you 70 or 80. The fullback.
I don't know. I don't necessarily agree with that. Recently, like a lot of the guys that I've looked at in terms of fullback scoring, if you look at a guy called Koga, plays for Kashiwa Seoul.
Yeah, I know Koga.
Yeah, okay. So I bought him for my under 23s, but then also a guy that I bought who's kind of really popped off recently was Alexander Schultz.
Yes.
So he's a centre back that scores very well. Like he can get you the 60s, 70s, 80s. But what I really like about him is he takes their penalties. Nice. And back before he moved to the Reds, wherever he was playing, Dutch League or something like that. I can see now. He's playing for like Midtjylland, Danish League, I think it is. Yeah, he was taking their penalties too. So I'm like, okay, this is like a high scoring AA centre back anyway, and he's got great chance of like 5 to 15 decisives per season. Like for me, when I look at his scoring chart, he's way better than Saliba, and Saliba's like 4 times the price. Like, okay, he doesn't have under 23 utility, but yeah, he's one of those centre backs where it's like, yeah, I think his average would probably be a lot closer to like the 70-ish point mark. And so I think there's a few of those defenders creeping in now, especially with a lot of the formation changes for some clubs, like back to 3 at the back, where the outside centre backs seem to score really, really well.
Yeah,
especially because of those final third passes. It's I think we're starting to see a centre back really take hold of the point scoring.
I was thinking more like you're kind of run of the mill, like your run of the mill fullback versus your run of the mill centre back.
Yeah,
if you get me. But like I knew Schultz was doing well, but that graph is impressive, isn't it? Wow.
Yeah, it's nice. Yeah.
Oh Jesus, man! I knew he was doing all right, but yeah, no. So that was my more. I'm thinking more about these. I've just pulled 1 or 2 up just to kind of see a range. But yeah, like good centre backs that aren't spectacular, not on set pieces or whatever. Like breaking 60 on 80 doesn't happen too often.
Yeah,
but like a fullback and a run of the mill team, could break 60, 70 without a clean sheet also. But they are more likely to drop you below 40 than a centre back guy would, if you get me.
Not even 40. So, man, some of these fullbacks are getting like 10 points and stuff, man. It's tough out there sometimes, man. Even Wijndal, like, hopefully he goes to Ajax because I've got the rare version of him. And I think at Ajax, he'll be a star. But even him, like, he's prone to some 19, 20-point scores where he's in a dominant team in a league, not as good as Ajax or whatever, but, AZ are a really strong team. And it's like watching him in one of the games, I think it was the game where he got the 19 points he got. I watched the whole game and I made a point of not looking at his so rare score the whole game and trying to guess, like, based on how he's played. Okay, he's given a ball away a few times. And I thought he's easily going to be in like mid-50s, low 60s here. I looked 19 points. I'm like, there's no, like, that suggests to me he's been awful.
Yeah.
He had a cracking game and he just got obliterated for possession loss and duels loss and stuff. And it's like, man, that's when I started getting like frustrated at the scoring matrix for fullbacks, when I started moving into centre backs more than fullbacks, because it was just like, okay, I'm paying premium prices here for these players and they're just getting diddled on the scoring.
Yeah, that's for sure frustrating. Because I'm very fullback heavy because I like the thought of them getting crosses and shots and stuff.
we talked about this last time we talked, and I was like, I said to you, I'm more about the AA kind of guy, right? And you said you're very much you want to go in with decisives because you just want that chance of the tier 1 or star.
Yep.
Whereas I was more like, I just want a reward.
Yeah.
And over time, I've developed more into not necessarily going away from AA or even going into decisives, but I have started looking more at who's taking the set pieces, who takes the free kicks. When these set pieces are taken, who's like the predominant goal scorers from these crosses? And like, so Gabriel for Arsenal, for example, he's almost always the target man from corners and free kicks. So having him is great because he just gets loads of goals from that, loads per centre back.
Yeah,
and I've really started to try and hone in on the guys that score well and then have that added extra of the decisives. And I think that's why I'm like, every game week I'm so excited with my gallery because I'm like, oh, this is just going to be the week, man. Yeah.
And then the decisive comes in for the defender. You're like, yes, that's in. We're going. It's happening.
Well, yeah, and then the attackers don't get the decisives and you cry. And that's exactly what happened this week. I had Schultz got a goal, got like 90 odd points after bonuses. Andre Blake in goal got me like 58 points after bonuses. I'm like, man, my defender and goalkeeper got me like 170 points or something. I'm like, I'm cooking here.
Yeah.
Had a DNP out of nowhere. One of my forwards got 28 points, the other one got 35 points. I'm like, oh man, I didn't even get a threshold. Can't make it up.
I had that last weekend as well. Like my goalkeeper and defender ran quickly, and my defender actually got a goal line clearance, which is one of those fun decisives when they pop up out of nowhere.
Yep.
And I was like, oh man, I was the same as you. Like 100, I was like decent after two. It was like the Friday as well. I was like, man, I'm gonna have a really good game week, and then it was like midfielder did crap, then both the strikers were on the bench or something, and it was just kind of like a pop balloon at the end. But when you're talking about going through that journey of trying to work out, like, do I want to be AA focused, or am I doing this? What it kind of comes back to a lot of the stuff we've been talking about, in the sense that when you're going through your journey of building your club, is trying to figure out what you need to win. Like if you've got, at some point you'll have a team of 5 or 6 guys, and it's like, oh, they're all AA monsters, but none of them are scoring, or they're all so decisive dependent that if they don't get anything, I'm in the water dead.
Yeah.
Try to figure out, well, if I get one guy that takes penalties and add them into here, and I get this free kick taker added in, then it starts to build up,
Yeah, it is good.
Nepenthez, thanks for a lot for your time, buddy. It's been an absolute pleasure catching up and getting on, talking with you.
Good.
We definitely don't do this enough, you're right, and I hope to catch up with you again sooner rather than later.
I'm always free. You just let me know when.
Top man. Take care. Let's get into all the giveaway stuff before I let you go. I'm still doing monthly giveaways, and I'm making it easier to enter. If you want to be entered to win this month's prize or any future giveaways here at the channel, all the same rules will always apply. Hit the subscribe button. You need to be a subscriber to enter, then leave a comment down below. Each month, a random comment from a random video will be selected as the winner, so the more videos you leave a comment on, the better the chance you've got of winning any of my giveaways. All the winners are announced at the end of videos the same way as we're doing here. The best way to keep up with the content has always been to hit the notification bell with all notifications turned on. As always guys, if you've enjoyed the video today, I'd appreciate it if you hit the like button. On screen now is some other stuff that I've made that YouTube thinks you might enjoy. Stay out of trouble, and I'll catch you on the next one. Take care. Bye bye.